My name is Brooke Turner, and I'm 29 years old.
If you'd looked at my life on paper a few months ago, you probably would have said I was doing everything right. Solid job as a project coordinator at a mid sized tech company. Decent credit. A one-bedroom apartment with creaky hardwood floors and a view of the city that looked better at night when the streetlights blurred out the cracks. A boyfriend who brought me coffee on Saturday mornings and posted couple selfies with captions like, "Grateful I get to do life with this one." His name is Evan, 27, charming in that photogenic social media polished way that makes people assume he has his life together. For a long time, I believed that too. I'm the kind of person who color codes calendars and keeps receipts in labeled envelopes. I believe in plans, in systems, in knowing where things are going. Evan believes in vibes, in energy, in winging it, and trusting that everything will magically work out. Sometimes those differences fit together, sometimes they scraped. The night everything cracked open started as one of those supportive girlfriend evenings. Evan had this big industry mixer for his marketing job. He'd been talking about it for weeks. Who might be there, which agencies were sending reps, how it could be a huge step forward for his career. He wanted me there for moral support. Just stand around looking way more put together than I am, he joked that afternoon, kissing my cheek while I touched up my makeup in the mirror. You're my secret weapon. I laughed because it felt nice to be needed like that. I put on a black blouse that made me look more confident than I felt, fixed my hair, and let him spin me in a circle like we were heading to a gala instead of a crowded hotel conference room with bad lighting. The mixer was exactly what you'd expect. Lukewarm appetizers, a bar that kept running out of limes, a buzz of conversations that all sounded vaguely the same. Evan thrived. He moved through the crowd like he was born to do it. Handshakes, quick jokes, tossing around words like synergy and pivot as if they meant more than, "We have no idea what we're doing yet." Every so often he'd circle back to me, fingers brushing my lower back, checking that I was still there before drifting off to the next conversation. Around 9, I ended up at the bar, ordering us another round. When I turned with the drinks in my hands, I saw him. Evan was standing with a guy I hadn't seen before. Tall, sharp suit, that effortless confidence that says, "I expect people to listen when I talk." They were close. Evan laughed at something he said, head tipped back just a little too far, hand landing on the guy's forearm in a way I recognized. It was the same easy touch he used with me when he wanted me to know I had his full attention. Then I watched him pull out his phone. The guy leaned in. They exchanged numbers. Evan's smile was bright, almost giddy. Now look, I'm not naive. People exchange contacts at these things all the time. That's the point. Marketing is networking. Networking is numbers. I get it. But as I stood there with condensation dripping down my glass, I noticed something else. The man, Trevor, as I'd learned, never looked around as if he might be intruding on a couple. His eyes didn't flick toward me. Evan didn't gesture in my direction. He didn't say, "Hey, this is my girlfriend, Brooke." He just pretended I didn't exist. I walked over with Evan's drink, feeling suddenly like an extra in a movie about my own life. "Hey," I said, handing it to him. Evan took the glass without missing a beat. "Thanks, babe," he said, quick kiss on my temple, his body still angled toward Trevor. Trevor gave me this quick, assessing look, the way you might glance at a stranger who happened to walk through the frame of your picture. No recognition. No, "Oh, this must be your girlfriend." I smiled, because that's what you do, and then drifted away to talk to someone from Evan's office. But the knot in my stomach stayed, tugging tighter every time I saw Evan and Trevor laughing together by the window. We left about 20 minutes later. Evan was buzzing, talking about potential collaborations and massive opportunities. The car filled with his voice and the faint smell of whatever cologne Trevor wore. I let him ride that high for a minute before I said, as casually as I could, "So, who was that guy?" "Trevor," he said immediately. "Trevor Hayes. Digital marketing. Dude's insanely connected. Knows people at all the big agencies." "Nice," I said. "You two seemed close." Evan grinned. "He's just one of those people you click with right away, you know. And he likes my ideas. He said we should grab coffee sometime, talk strategy." "You gave him your number?" "Yeah, for networking. Why?" His tone shifted on that last word. A sharp edge slid in, so subtle most people would have missed it. But I'd heard it before. I stared out at the road for a second, watching the headlights smear across the wet asphalt. "I don't know. It just looked kind of flirty. The arm touching, the way you were laughing. It didn't look strictly professional." He actually laughed. Oh my God, Brooke. He shook his head. You're seriously upset I gave my number to a guy at a mixer? It's literally what you do at these things. It's just networking. I didn't say I was upset, I said quietly. I'm just telling you how it looked. You're being paranoid, he said, the word landing heavy between us. This is exactly what my ex used to do. She'd freak out if I so much as looked at someone. It was suffocating. I thought you were different. There it was, the ghost of the controlling ex-girlfriend he'd warned me about early on. The story about how she made everything about jealousy, how he couldn't breathe. I'm not freaking out, I said, though my chest felt tight. I'm telling you there's a line between professional and whatever that was. And what? He snapped. You're threatened by me having male contacts now? That's honestly embarrassing, Brooke. I thought you were more secure than that. I swallowed down the impulse to list every time in the last year I'd watched him blur that line. The mentor who texted him at 1 a.m. with, "Just saw this meme and thought of you." The collaborator who insisted their brainstorming sessions had to happen over drinks at a dimly lit bar instead of on Zoom. The photographer who commented on his photos with, "My favorite face to shoot," and a string of heart emojis. Every time I'd brought up how it made me uncomfortable, the script had been the same. You're overreacting. This is how the industry works. You don't get it. You're not in marketing. You sound just like my ex. By the time we pulled into our parking lot, I was the villain for suggesting that maybe, just maybe, some of these contacts weren't purely professional. We walked up to the apartment in brittle silence. Evan disappeared into the shower. I sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the dark TV screen, my own reflection, faint and tired. This wasn't the first time. 2 months ago, there had been the mentor who sent voice notes at weird hours. Before that, the collaboration opportunity that looked a lot like a guy trying to date him under the guise of work. Each time, my concern had been turned into a character flaw. Insecure, controlling, not supportive enough of his career. I remember thinking, as the pipes rattled and the shower roared to life, that maybe I was losing my grip on what reasonable even looked like. Was I being controlling? Was asking for a basic introduction at a mixer too much? Or had I just gotten used to being told my boundaries were a problem? I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for the sound of water to stop, for Evan's footsteps to pass behind me toward the bedroom without a word. Eventually, I changed into pajamas, slid into bed on my side, and stared at the line of light under the door while he scrolled on his phone, screen flashing across the ceiling. I didn't say anything else that night. Something inside me, small, exhausted, decided there was no point in arguing about it again. If words didn't work, maybe something else would. The next morning, Evan was still cool. Not openly angry, just distant. He moved around the kitchen with that tight, efficient energy that says, I'm still mad, but I'm pretending I'm not. I poured coffee, watched the steam curl up between us, and made a decision. Hey, I said, keeping my voice soft, about last night. He didn't look up from his phone. Yeah? You're right, I said, forcing the words out slowly. I was being silly. I trust you. Networking is part of your job. I shouldn't have made it weird. His whole body brightened, like someone flipped a switch. Really? He said, finally meeting my eyes. Thank God. I was honestly worried you were turning into one of those girlfriends, you know. Yeah, I said. No, I get it. Professional connections are important. Exactly. He stepped closer, relief loosening his shoulders. Thank you for understanding, babe. He kissed my cheek, grabbed his keys, and headed for the door. As he did, his phone lit up on the counter. Trevor, coffee this week? Have some ideas for you. Evan snatched the phone up, grinning. See, he said, waving it like proof, already paying off. He was still texting Trevor as he left our apartment. The door clicked shut. Silence settled over the kitchen again. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the spot where his mug had been, at the ring of coffee it left on the counter. If networking was just networking, then I could network too. 5 months earlier, I'd run into someone at a coffee shop. Alex Carter. We'd dated briefly in college. Nothing dramatic, nothing devastating, just two people who liked each other and then drifted apart. We'd stayed friendly on social media. He was in finance now, doing well, perpetually busy. Back then, we'd exchanged the kind of half-hearted, we should grab coffee sometime plan that everyone says and nobody schedules. I thought about it once or twice, then let it go. Now I picked up my phone, thumb hovering over our old thread. My heart thudded, not with romantic excitement, but with a strange mix of hurt and clarity. I heard Evan's voice in my head. It's just networking. This is what professionals do. You're being paranoid. Fine, I typed. Me. Hey, still down for that coffee catch-up? The dots appeared almost immediately. Alex, absolutely. Been forever. How's Tuesday? My reflection in the black microwave door looked like someone else's. Calm, almost. Me, Tuesday works. I set my phone down, the decision settling in my chest like a stone at the bottom of a lake. Evan had his coffee with Trevor scheduled for Wednesday. I had mine with Alex on Tuesday. If he wanted to live in a world where networking meant blurred lines and convenient excuses, then he could see how it felt when those rules applied to both of us. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I was just going to let his own standards speak for themselves. Tuesday came faster than I expected. Work blurred by in a mix of emails, meetings, and a spreadsheet that refused to format correctly. Every so often, my eyes flicked to the corner of my screen, to the little calendar reminder I'd set the day before. Coffee with Alex, 4:30 p.m. It felt innocent and dangerous at the same time. Around 4, I ducked into the bathroom at the office and looked at myself under the harsh fluorescent lights. My hair was still mostly in place. Mascara hadn't smudged. I looked normal. Not like someone plotting revenge. Not like someone about to blow up her relationship. Coffee, I told my reflection under my breath. Just coffee. Just networking. The downtown cafe we'd picked was one of those trendy places with exposed brick, hanging plants, and baristas who took coffee as personally as religion. Alex was already there when I walked in, sitting by the window, scrolling his phone. He looked almost exactly the same as he had in college, just sharper around the edges. Better clothes, nicer watch, confidence that came from surviving a few years in the real world. When he saw me, his face broke into a grin. "Brooke Turner," he said, standing. "Wow, you look exactly like yourself." I laughed as he pulled me into a quick hug. It was warm, familiar, but not charged. Not yet. "You, on the other hand, look like an adult now," I said, stepping back. "What happened to the guy who thought a wrinkled hoodie counted as business casual?" He made a face. He died somewhere around year 2 of corporate finance. We ordered drinks and sat down. Conversation flowed easy. Updates on work, mutual friends, who'd gotten married, who'd moved states, who'd fallen off the map entirely. It felt good. Not in a heart-racing, "oh my God, I've missed you" way, but in a quieter one, like slipping on an old sweatshirt you'd forgotten was still in the back of your closet. "So," Alex said at one point, sipping his espresso, "how's life outside of work? Last I stalked your Instagram, you were in a relationship." "I am," I said. "Still am, 3 years." "Wow." He smiled. "That's impressive. What's he like?" I thought about how to answer. "He's charming," I said carefully. "Good at what he does. Very social. Loves networking." "Ah," Alex's eyes glinted. "One of those." "One of what?" "The people who think LinkedIn is a personality trait." I laughed, because it was too on the nose not to. "Something like that." He tilted his head. "You happy?" It was a simple question. It hit like a punch. I hesitated just a fraction too long. "It's complicated," I said finally. "But yeah, mostly." Alex watched me for a moment, like he wanted to push, then thought better of it. "Complicated is kind of the default setting at our age," he said lightly. "Just checking you're not secretly dating a cult leader or something." "Not that I know of," I said. We talked for 3 hours, about everything and nothing. He told me about the long-term relationship he'd just gotten out of. I told him about the promotion I was working toward. We laughed about college stories we'd both half forgotten. At some point, we both glanced at the time and groaned. "I should get going," he said, standing. "I have a mountain of emails waiting to punish me for enjoying myself." "Same," I said. He hesitated, then added, "We should grab dinner sometime, when schedules calm down. I feel like we barely scratched the surface." There was a space there, a suggestion hanging quietly between his words. Not aggressive, not demanding, just possibility. I heard Evan's voice in my head. "We're just talking. It's normal. It's networking." "Yeah," I said, keeping my tone light. "Dinner would be nice." He smiled. "I'll text you. We'll make it happen." On the way home, my stomach twisted. Objectively, nothing bad had happened. No lines crossed. No secrets. I could tell Evan, if I wanted to. I could say, "Hey, I grabbed coffee with an old friend today," and leave it at that. But I knew how that conversation would go. "Who?" "Oh, a guy. Why didn't you tell me before? It just feels weird, Brooke." Weird in one direction, perfectly acceptable in the other. That night, Evan sprawled on the couch beside me, scrolling his phone. "Trevor wants to meet her for coffee tomorrow," he said casually. "He thinks he can connect me with some agency people. This could be huge." I forced my voice steady. "That's great. You should go." He glanced at me, almost surprised I wasn't pushing back. You're really okay with it? You said it yourself, I replied. Networking is important. Something flickered in his eyes. Disappointment? Confusion? It was gone too fast to read. He showed me Trevor's Instagram a few minutes later. The guy had a polished feed: suits, travel, gym selfies. Under one of Evan's recent photos, Trevor had commented, "Killing it as always." I raised an eyebrow internally. Out loud, I said nothing. Wednesday came and went. Evan came home glowing after his coffee with Trevor, talking about synergies and potential collaborations. I listened, nodded, asked the right questions, like a good partner. Friday, I booked the dinner Alex had suggested. Nice place downtown. White tablecloths, low lighting, the kind of menu where they don't put prices next to everything and you just know it's going to hurt a little. I told Evan that morning, as casually as I could manage. By the way, I have dinner plans tonight. He didn't look up from his cereal. With who? An old friend from college, I said. We grabbed coffee earlier this week. We're catching up. He shrugged. Cool. That was it. No follow-up questions, no curiosity, no, what's his name? It stung more than I wanted to admit. I got my hair trimmed after work, changed into a dress that made me feel put together but not overdressed, and caught a rideshare downtown. All the while, a tiny, guilty voice kept whispering, "Are you doing this to prove a point?" Maybe I was. Maybe I was also tired of feeling like the only adult in a relationship I was supposed to be grateful for. Dinner with Alex was nice. We talked more deeply this time, about his breakup, the way it had unraveled slowly, thread by thread, about my relationship, in vague terms. I didn't drag Evan through the mud. I didn't list every grievance, but I didn't sugarcoat the double standards either. That sounds exhausting, Alex said at one point, frowning. Being made to feel crazy for noticing basic reality. Yeah, I said, picking at my napkin. That's a good word for it. When the check came, I reached for my wallet out of habit. He stopped me with a small smile. I've got it, he said. Next time you can buy coffee. There was a next time implied. I let it hang there, undefined. As we were standing to leave, we heard someone call, "Alex?" We both turned. A woman was weaving between tables toward us. Dark hair, bright smile, holding hands with a guy in a button-up shirt. She looked familiar in the way strangers from Instagram sometimes do. "Nicole," Alex grinned. "Hey." They hugged. Nicole's eyes flicked to me, curious. "Sorry," Alex said quickly. "Nicole, this is Brooke. We went to college together. Brooke, this is Nicole. We work together." "Nice to meet you," I said, shaking her hand. Finally putting a face to the name, she said warmly, "You're the Brooke he mentioned in the break room." Alex's ears went a little pink. "Wow. Okay, betrayal," he muttered. Nicole laughed and pulled out her phone. "You two look cute," she said, raising it slightly. "Mind if I grab a picture? I'm posting our date night anyway. Might as well document all the beautiful people in one place." I hesitated half a second too long. Alex smiled. "Sure," he said. "Why not?" We posed next to our table, mid-laugh. The flash went off. Nicole squealed about the lighting. Her boyfriend waved from behind her. They headed to their table. We headed to the door. Outside, the air was cool, the city buzzing. Alex hugged me goodbye, longer than a polite acquaintance hug, shorter than something that would be unquestionably romantic. "This was good," he said softly. "We should do it again." "Yeah," I said, "we should." On the rideshare home, my phone buzzed. Instagram notification. Nicole had posted a photo. Her and her boyfriend at their table, the restaurant soft and golden around them. In the background, slightly blurred but unmistakable, Alex and me, heads tilted toward each other, laughing. The caption read, "Date night." Also spotted these cuties having their own romantic evening. My heart did a slow, resigned sink. I could have DM'd her, asked her to change the caption, take the photo down. I didn't. I just stared at the screen, thinking about how fast things spread, how many people in Evan's orbit followed him, followed me, followed anyone who looked even vaguely interesting. By the time I got home, the photo had likes, comments, tags. Evan was on the couch when I walked in, phone in hand, jaw clenched tight enough to crack. "Hey," I said cautiously, dropping my keys in the bowl by the door. "Dinner was good." His eyes snapped to mine, cold, too calm. "Did you have fun?" he asked. "Yeah," I said slowly. "We caught up. It was nice." "Uh-huh," he said. "With your friend." There was a tone on that last word I'd never heard from him before. Bitter. Mocking. I set my bag down, suddenly aware of how quiet the apartment was. The hum of the fridge, the distant sound of a car passing outside, my own heartbeat in my ears. "What's going on, Evan?" He shoved his phone at me. On the screen, Nicole's post, our blurry, laughing faces in the background. The caption, bright and damning. "Who is he?" Evan demanded. "And don't say an old friend." I looked at the picture, at myself mid-laugh, at the way Alex's shoulder leaned unconsciously toward mine. "His name is Alex," I said. "We dated briefly in college. We stayed friends." "Old friend," he repeated, the words sour. "She looks like a model and you're having romantic dinners." His voice cracked with anger. "You gonna tell me that's just networking?" I felt something settle inside me. Not satisfaction, not exactly. Just inevitability. "It was dinner," I said calmly. "We were catching up, talking about work, building connections. Two professionals, right?" The realization hit his face like a physical blow. His eyes widened, then narrowed. A flush crept up his neck. "This is different," he said, almost spitting the words. "What you're doing is different." "How?" I asked quietly. "Because you—" he started, then cut himself off, searching for something that would make sense out loud. "Because you didn't tell me it was with a guy. You didn't say it was your ex. You let me find out from some random girl's Instagram." "You didn't tell Trevor I existed," I said. "You didn't introduce me. He had to find out from your social media that you have a girlfriend at all." "That's not the same thing," he snapped. "Why?" I asked. "Because you say so?" His voice rose, carrying all the things he hadn't said when he thought he still held the moral high ground. "You're clearly trying to date this guy," he said. "You dressed up. You let people think you were on some romantic evening." "I put on a dress and had dinner," I said. "You had coffee with Trevor while he left flirty comments on your photos. You want to talk about romantic undertones? Or do we only care about those when I'm the one in the picture?" His hands curled into fists at his sides. "You're being manipulative," he said. "You did this to hurt me." "I did this," I replied, "to live by the rules you've been giving me for months." I watched the words land, watched him recoil from their weight. He didn't like the rules anymore, not when they applied to him. He stood there in the middle of our living room, chest rising and falling, trying to find words that would make me the villain again. "You know what?" he said finally, voice trembling with controlled anger. "You're vindictive. You've been waiting for a reason to embarrass me." I crossed my arms. "Embarrass you? Evan, all I did was follow your example. You told me networking is normal, that it's controlling to question it. You said professionals build connections over dinner. That's what I did." "That's completely different," his voice cracked. "You went out with an ex. You let people think it was a date." "You went out with a guy who thought you were single," I shot back. "You didn't even correct him." He froze, his jaw tightened. "You don't get it," he said. "Trevor's connections could help my career. There's no comparison." "Then explain it to me," I said quietly. "Why is your networking professional and mine is personal?" "Because you like him," he shouted. The words hung in the air like glass shards. I blinked. "And Trevor doesn't like you?" He didn't answer. His face flushed red, and for a second I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. He looked cornered, like someone realizing too late that they'd walked into their own trap. "Evan," I said, softer now, "I'm not trying to hurt you, but you can't keep making rules that only work in your favor." He shook his head, pacing the room. "You know what? I'm done talking about this. I'm staying at my sister's tonight." He grabbed his keys off the counter and stormed toward the door. "Evan," I called, "so what is this then? Are we breaking up?" He stopped at the doorway, hand gripping the knob. "If you see him again," he said without looking back, "we're done." I stared at his back, the same man who'd spent months insisting I trust him. "So you're giving me an ultimatum over a professional connection?" He spun, eyes blazing. "Don't twist this. You know exactly what you're doing." "I do," I said. "I'm living by the same standards you gave me." "God, you're unbelievable." He slammed the door hard enough to rattle the frame. For a long time, the only sound in the apartment was the faint clink of a spoon against a coffee mug I hadn't washed. 2 days passed before he texted, "We need to talk." I stared at the screen, then typed back. "About what?" "You know what? The dinner. You crossed a line. I just followed the rules you made." He didn't reply after that, but his sister Diana did. "You're seriously going to throw away 3 years over pride?" Evan's devastated. He said you're punishing him for being ambitious. I didn't answer. By Tuesday morning, the messages multiplied. Friends of his, even one from his coworker Kelly, who apparently decided to play moral referee. "He told us what you did. Going on dates with your ex? That's disgusting." "He was networking, Kelly. So was I." "Don't be petty, Brooke. He's working hard to build a career. You're just trying to hurt him." I tossed my phone on the couch, half laughing, half shaking. It was like they were all reading from the same script. One Evan had written, and they'd rehearsed to perfection. By the time he finally called that afternoon, I was too tired to argue. Look, he said, voice low, practiced. I've thought about it. I'm willing to forgive you. I actually laughed. Forgive me? For the Alex thing, he said. But you need to block him. Everywhere. Delete his number. Unfollow him. You can't see him again.
And Trevor? That's different.
How? He's a professional contact.
So you get to keep your contacts, but I have to erase mine.
Yes, he said firmly. Because mine are actually professional. Yours is personal. I took a slow breath.
Evan, if you really believe that, then you don't want a relationship. You want control.
Stop being dramatic. Then prove me wrong. If you're cutting Trevor off, I'll cut off Alex. No, he said quickly. That's not necessary. So your compromise is I follow your rules and you don't follow mine. Brooke, I'm trying to make this work. Then listen to yourself for once, I said. You're not asking for honesty, you're asking for obedience.
He sighed heavily, frustrated. You're twisting everything.
No, Evan, I said quietly.
You just don't like what it sounds like when the same logic applies to you.
He hung up without another word. That night, Diana called. Brooke, she said sharply, what is wrong with you? My brother's been crying for days. Then maybe he should look in the mirror, I said. He's trying to compromise. He's willing to forgive you, and you're throwing it away.
His compromise is me doing whatever he says while he keeps doing what he wants.
He's trying to protect the relationship. From equality? Diana's voice went cold. You're being petty. Vanessa. She stopped herself, caught the slip. Evan. Came here crying last night. He's heartbroken. He said you're using another man to punish him. I'm using his own rules, I said. If that feels like punishment, maybe that's the problem. She exhaled loudly. You're impossible. You always have to win. It's not about winning, I said softly. It's about fairness. She hung up. 2 days later, Evan's mom called.
Patricia had always liked me, or so I thought. She'd invited me to family dinners, complimented my work ethic, told me once that I kept Evan grounded.
Brooke, she began, voice heavy with disappointment. I'm truly shocked. I can't believe you'd humiliate him like this. Hi, Patricia, I said evenly. Nice to hear from you, too. Don't play smart. Evan told me everything. You're dating another man while he's trying to build his career? Do you have any idea how that makes him look? I'm not dating anyone, I said. I had dinner with an old friend. I saw the picture, she said. You two looked very cozy. Friends laughed, Patricia. Don't get clever with me. Evan has been loyal to you. You need to apologize and make this right. With respect, I said, Evan has been networking with people who openly flirt with him. When I raised concerns, he called me controlling, so I followed his rules. Exactly. That's completely different, she snapped. How? Because he's doing it for his career. You're doing it for revenge. So it's fine if he crosses boundaries as long as he says it's business? You young people, she huffed, have no sense of respect. When I was your age, women didn't have phones to check the messages their boyfriends hid, I cut in. Yeah, I noticed. She gasped. Excuse me? I'm sorry, Patricia, I said calmly, but your son isn't a victim. He's just upset the mirror finally turned around. She hung up on me. Thursday night, my phone rang again, this time 15 times in a row. When I finally answered, Evan's voice was sharp with panic. Trevor just told me he doesn't want to work with me anymore, he shouted. He said he saw on Instagram that I have a girlfriend. This is your fault. I blinked. My fault? Yes, you ruined this for me. That connection could have changed everything.
Evan, I said slowly, if Trevor lost interest because you have a girlfriend, he was never interested in working with you.
You don't understand business, he snapped. Sometimes connections are personal and professional. Sometimes connections are just people flirting, I said. That's not business. That's dating. You're loving this, aren't you? His voice cracked. You're happy you ruined it for me. I'm not happy or sad, I said. I'm just noticing reality. You wanted freedom, Evan. You got it. He went quiet. For a long moment, I thought he'd hung up. Then his voice came through, low, almost breaking. You're not the person I fell in love with, he said. I'm the same person, I replied. I just stopped apologizing for having boundaries. It's him, isn't it? He said. Alex changed you. This isn't about Alex, I said. This is about us, and the double standard you refuse to see. So what? He said bitterly. We're just over? 3 years mean nothing to you? That's up to you, I said. Either we both get to have friends, or neither of us does. Pick one. That's not fair. Then maybe fairness was never what you wanted. He started crying, real tears, not performative ones. I can't lose you over this, please. I'm not the one who made the rules, I whispered. You did. Then I hung up. That night I blocked his number, just for some peace. When I unblocked him the next morning, there were dozens of texts waiting. Some angry, some apologetic,
Some downright bizarre. You're right, I'm sorry. Actually, no, you're still wrong, but I can compromise. Alex is trash. I looked at his Instagram, so desperate. Diana wants to fight him. I still love you, please don't throw us away. I stared at the screen until the words blurred, then put my phone face down on the counter. I'd spent years walking on eggshells to keep someone else comfortable. For the first time, I didn't feel like apologizing for it. Saturday came. The city was humid, restless, one of those late summer days where everything felt a little too bright, a little too close. I'd planned to spend it doing laundry and catching up on emails, but around noon, Alex texted. Still on for that movie? I hesitated, thumb hovering over the screen. Evan's last messages were still sitting in my phone. Apologies that morphed into insults, then circled back to apologies again. The same loop we'd been trapped in for months. I typed back. Yeah, I could use the distraction. We met downtown that evening. The movie was loud, ridiculous, exactly what I needed. We laughed at the same scenes, shared popcorn, and for 2 hours, I didn't think about Evan at all. Afterward, we walked along the Riverwalk, neon reflections flickering in the water. So, Alex said, glancing sideways at me, how's all that going? I blew out a breath. Messy. He chuckled. That's one word for it. His sister wants to fight you, apparently. That made him laugh outright. Wow. I haven't been in a fight since 3rd grade. Don't worry, I said. She'll probably just subtweet you. Good. I'm better at ignoring those. He looked at me for a long moment, more serious now. Are you okay, Brooke? Like, really? I nodded, then shrugged. I don't know. I think I'm just tired. Tired of double standards. Tired of being the one who has to explain why something hurts. He nodded slowly. You deserve better than that. I looked at him, at the easy steadiness in his expression, the lack of calculation. Thanks, I said quietly. You too. We hugged goodbye outside my building. It wasn't romantic, but it lingered a little longer than a casual one. When I reached my door, I saw it. The car parked in front of my building. Evans. He was sitting inside, staring at the steering wheel. My stomach dropped. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and walked over. He stepped out as soon as he saw me. His face was a mess. Puffy eyes, smeared mascara from who knows when, exhaustion clinging to him. Was it worth it? He asked. What? Hurting me. His voice cracked. Was it worth it, Brooke? I met his eyes. I didn't hurt you. I just stopped letting you hurt me. You did this to prove a point, he said, to make me jealous. I didn't have to make you jealous, Evan. I just had to show you what equality looks like. That's cruel. No, I said softly. It's honest. He rubbed his hands over his face, shaking his head. You're falling for him, I can tell. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I'm just remembering what it feels like to be around someone who doesn't call me controlling for having boundaries. So that's it? His voice trembled. 3 years? Gone? You tell me, I said. Can I have male friends or not? Not him, he whispered. Anyone but him. That's not how fairness works. He swallowed hard, looking smaller somehow. Then I guess we're done. I guess so. He stared at me one last time, waiting for me to take it back, to tell him I didn't mean it. I didn't. He got in his car and drove away. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, but it was mine. Sunday morning, I woke to the sound of notifications. Dozens of them. Texts, DMs, missed calls. Diana again. You're heartless. You walked out on someone who loved you. Family means sticking by people even when they mess up. You failed him. Kelly chimed in too. Wow, I didn't think you were this cold. He's been crying for days. I stared at the messages, then turned my phone face down and went to make coffee. There was no point replying. No point explaining the kind of quiet that comes after too much noise. That afternoon, I started packing. His things were still here. Shirts in the closet, a cologne bottle on the dresser, a drawer of tangled cords and old chargers. I folded everything neatly into 2 boxes. No anger, no spite, just finality. When I was done, I loaded them into my trunk and drove them to Diana's apartment. I sent a single text. Evan's things are on the porch. Please let him know. She responded 5 minutes later. Wow, so that's it? You're that cold? I didn't reply. Over the next few days, the messages shifted. Less rage, more sadness. I miss you. We can fix this if you just admit you overreacted. I'm sorry, but you have to see how wrong this was. Each one sounded like a looped recording of the same argument. I didn't answer any of them. By the end of the week, he stopped texting. The silence that followed felt strange, like walking through a house after a storm and realizing all the windows are still standing. I should have felt free. I mostly just felt still. Alex texted a few days later. Coffee this weekend? I said yes. We met at the same cafe as before, talked about everything except Evan.
At one point, he leaned back and said, "You seem lighter." "I am," I said. "Just tired, but lighter." He smiled. "Good. You don't need anyone dragging you down." We sat in comfortable silence for a bit, watching the afternoon light spill across the tables.
For the first time in months, I realized I wasn't waiting for my phone to buzz with someone else's crisis.
I wasn't on defense. I wasn't apologizing. When I got home that night, the apartment looked different. Not emptier exactly, but calmer, like it had exhaled with me. I boxed up the last few photos of us, slid them into the closet, and stood in the quiet. 3 years of shared routines, texts, dinners, arguments, all condensed into silence. And somehow that silence finally sounded like peace. A few weeks passed, enough time for the routine of my life to knit itself back together in small, quiet ways. The first Saturday, I didn't wake up to an argument. I stayed in bed until 10, sunlight spilling across the sheets like permission. Work felt steadier too. My focus came back. My manager even noticed, offering me a promotion to lead coordinator on a new client project. I went home that day with takeout and a strange kind of contentment. Not joy, not yet, but something sturdier. Then, like clockwork, the grapevine started humming. A mutual friend, Jenna, texted, "Hey, just a heads up. Evan's been telling people you planned that dinner with Alex to hurt him." I sighed. Let him. People believe what fits their story best. He's also saying you monkey branched. That one almost made me laugh. Monkey branched. The internet's favorite way to say, moved on before I approved of it. As if I'd swung from one man to another like a vine, instead of stepping off a sinking ship. I thanked Jenna and changed the subject. But later that night, curiosity won. I opened Instagram on a burner account. Evan's profile was still public. There he was, smiling at a rooftop bar, arms slung around Trevor. Caption, "Grateful for real friends and new beginnings." The comments were full of supportive noise. "So proud of you. That's growth. Some people never appreciate a good man." I closed the app. It didn't hurt the way I thought it might. Just felt predictable. 2 weeks later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. "Hello? Brooke, it's Patricia." I froze. "Oh, hi." She hesitated, voice soft, almost embarrassed. "I owe you an apology." That I hadn't expected. She went on before I could respond. "I was helping Evan with some paperwork and saw messages between him and that Trevor boy, the ones he said were strictly business." "Yeah," I said carefully. "Let's just say," she sighed, "they weren't very professional. I didn't realize he made it sound like you were overreacting." "Most people did," I said quietly. "I'm sorry, Brooke," she said again. "Truly, you didn't deserve that." For a second, my throat tightened. "Thank you, Patricia. That means a lot." "Are you all right?" she asked. "I'm okay," I said. "Really, I've moved on." "And that other young man, Alex, was it?" "We're friends," I said. "He's moving soon for work." "That's probably for the best," she murmured. "I just hope you find someone who treats you right." "Me too," I said, smiling. "Take care, Patricia." When I hung up, I stared at the phone for a long time. Closure, I realized, doesn't always come from the person who hurt you. Sometimes it comes from the people who finally see the truth, even too late. The following weekend, Alex texted me. "Got the job offer. It's official. I leave next month." "That's amazing. You deserve it," I replied. "Dinner to celebrate? Maybe a goodbye thing?" "Absolutely." We met at a small restaurant near the river, the same place where everything had started unraveling with Evan. This time it felt different, peaceful. "I was half expecting you to tell me you changed your mind," Alex said when I arrived. "About dinner?" "About me." I laughed softly. "No, you earned this one." We talked about his move, the new city, the risks, the excitement. At one point, he looked at me and said, "You know, Brooke, I think maybe there could have been something here if timing was different." "Maybe," I said honestly, "but I don't think either of us needs a maybe right now." He nodded. Fair enough. We clinked glasses. No expectations. No unfinished business. Just two people who'd met at the right moment for friendship, not romance. When we hugged goodbye outside, it was gentle, final, but kind. Days blurred again. Work, coffee, quiet evenings. I cooked more, read more, let the noise fade. Diana tried one last time, of course. A long, furious message that started with, "You manipulated my brother," and ended with, "You'll regret this someday." I replied once, "I went to dinner with the friend. Your brother spent months networking with people who wanted him. If that's manipulation, maybe you should check his definition too." She responded instantly, "That's victim blaming. Your mom saw the messages with Trevor. Ask her." There was a long pause. Then she typed back, "My mom's being manipulated by you too. You're good at that." I blocked her. It didn't feel angry, it just felt done. By early autumn, the apartment finally felt like mine again. No phantom toothbrush by the sink, no drawer full of clothes that didn't belong to me. I wasn't rushing into dating. I wasn't rushing into anything. When friends asked how I was doing, I said, better. Not perfect, not healed, just better. Sometimes that's enough. I went on one date, a blind setup through a coworker. The guy was kind, easy to talk to, but halfway through dinner, I realized I wasn't really listening. I was thinking about how strange it felt to be with someone new, and how good it felt not to owe anyone explanations. When he asked if I wanted to see him again, I smiled, maybe in a little while. He seemed to understand. A few nights later, I sat on the balcony with a glass of wine, the city humming below. I thought about everything that had happened. The fights, the double standards, the slow unraveling of a relationship I'd once been proud of. I didn't hate Evan, not anymore. I didn't even wish him ill. But I did wish he'd learned the same lesson I had. You can't demand freedom and deny it to the person beside you. You can't call your boundaries career goals and theirs control. Love doesn't mean never being questioned. It means being safe enough to be honest. If he ever learns that, I hope he treats someone better than he treated me. And as for me, I finally understand something too. When someone shows you their rules, believe them. And if those rules only work one way, walk away. Because love that requires you to shrink isn't love at all. It's permission disguised as partnership. And I'm done asking for permission.